So any discoveries lead to paradigm shifts. Explorers were largely driven by a sense of adventure or scientific inquiry, but the most common outcome of exploration was trade. For example, our common Indian pepper, which we use daily, was once called the black gold because it was so expensive. So, new discoveries make something more valuable and something less valuable. As the oceans were discovered and spice routes were established, we were able to navigate the oceans, beginning what we today call as globalization. And with that, the humble pepper, which was once as valuable as gold itself, is affordable very easily to everyone in the world. So every new discovery creates new opportunities and takes away an existing market. And this is important to remember as an entrepreneur, because we are caught into market shifts no more, no differently than explorers of past work. And our markets, can change. Every new tech innovation, while it creates a new opportunity, it makes something obsolete. So, some of the key aspects of entrepreneurship is to understand the shifts in supply and demand. And when something new becomes unique and valuable, something else becomes abundant and hence becomes a commodity. So, the market changes and the market shifts are merciless. For example, with the advent of digital cameras, entire industry of production of film and development of film became very rapidly obsolete. So, what is the explorer's mindset? This is actually a term that is used in leadership training and even in classrooms to draw lessons from famous expeditions, because at the core of every expedition is actually a crisis, right? No expedition goes so smoothly. Just like no company becomes successful without undergoing certain kinds of crisis. And hence, the explorer mindset to a crisis is very relevant to draw also in the journey of entrepreneurship. So I thought it would be fun for us today to explore through the learnings and journeys of some famous explorers. So, I've always found myself learning from journeys of others, propelled by exploring the lives of others. Through their trials and tribulations and choices, they leave behind for us a rich library to draw from. So these real life situations can also give us many clues on how we may draw lessons in our own journey, especially in entrepreneurship. So let's look at a few explorers. You may be familiar with them. For example, Fernando Magellan. He was a famous Portuguese explorer, and he was the first one to circumvent the globe. And in that process, he proved that the earth is round. Until then, the predominant belief being that the earth was flat. And also that the earth was a lot bigger than what anybody imagined it to be. And it was the first time that we understood that all the continent oceans are actually connected. The same Atlantic Ocean touches multiple continents, and the Pacific, and so forth. Now, this was a huge achievement, something that maybe doesn't deserve a second thought today, but this was huge information and huge achievement, and hence the crossing of the Strait of Magellan with very, very limited equipment and knowledge was a breakthrough in terms of navigational task. But one of the biggest setbacks was in the immediate aftermath. Few actually celebrated this accomplishment. He was widely discredited and even reviled. So what is important to take away is the magnificent discovery and how it would change world trade was hard to fathom for anyone. So when you start a company, this is the frequent question, when is a good time to start? There is really no good time to start a company. You start one when you feel compelled to start. And as Fernando said, the sea is dangerous and its storms are terrible, but that has never been a sufficient reason to remain ashore. And the way I would offer that is, inevitably, when you start a company, undergoing some crisis is part of the passage. And you should start when you have a compelling cause to be able to start. And the other takeaway is, sometimes the true impact of major discoveries remain uh, remain limitedly understood for a while to come. Now, another favorite explorer of mine is actually Shackleton. And Shackleton was an Irish explorer. And in 1914, he led a crew of 27 people, men and several dogs, on an enigmatic expedition to Antarctica. But few months into the journey, his ship, the Endurance, was crippled and sank into ice. Now they had to seek shelter on an island, and they survived 17 months against improbable odds in this ice cave, if you will. And eventually, Shackleton crossed more than 1,000 kilometers personally in a tiny boat and came back with people to rescue each one of his men. So, though he failed in his original mission of reaching the South Pole, he is respected and revered and is actually legendary for his leadership skills in rescuing all of his men. When I look at his clarity of communication and capacity to keep faith against odds, and his acumen to inspire his men and keep them busy despite dire situation of everyday imminent death, and finally to emerge victorious with everyone intact, I feel that anything we face from entrepreneurship, we should be inspired by his lessons in communication and clarity. Um, and I also like what he says, that it's our nature to explore and to reach out to unknown. Really the true failure is not to explore at all. Because if you have dreamt of building something, a product, or solving a problem, or starting a company, it would be really a self-sacrifice to not do so. I think each of us deserve to explore our true inner urges. Another, favorite of mine, Amelia Earhart. She was a aviation pioneer and actually a great author. She was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Most of us know, of course, that she died and she was never found. But she was inspired to take flying, and somehow saved $1,000 so she can enroll into a flight school. She faced a lot of challenges in life in general, because she pursued activities that were considered for men at that time. And if you can think about, in 1921, somebody, which is almost a century ago, a woman flying. And I bring this up because I'm not sure in the audience how many women entrepreneurs we have. And of course, Shraddha is there as a great role model. There's always another question I'm asked to say, is it harder for women to be entrepreneurs? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we need to draw inspiration from wherever we can. And I draw a lot of inspiration from Amelia Earhart. So, and another thing with her was, she attributed, her success, a lot of her success, to preparation. She said, that's 2/3 of the success of any venture. So I think her capacity for meticulous planning, that's not any different when we start a company. Launching a product too quickly, we know, has a poor product too quickly has a very high cost. So is the execution of a ill thought out plan. And I like her attitude too, the notion that are you flying off a runway that already built for you, or if you don't have a runway to take off, then you be responsible to building that runway. That also sounds very familiar. For example, when you start a company, sometimes you can build on an existing platform. Let's say your product idea can sit on a Facebook or a Google or an Amazon or a SaaS product on Microsoft or Salesforce. So that's kind of the runway. They offer a runway on which you can build and take off. But if your idea is so original that you need to build, let's say, the internet highway, then you need to pace yourself differently, like Netscape did when they had to build the very first browser. So you have to be aware that if you are building the new internet highway, in order for you to build on top of it, these missionary projects take a lot longer to evangelize and take off. LinkedIn was started in 2002, but for the first decade, actually, until the network effects were clear, they were not able to truly deliver the kind of scale, scope that they have now. Again, success is not always happy ending. In Kalpana Chawla, who was the first Indian woman to fly in space, she of course lost her life in the Challenger. But again, going back to why do we start companies, the familiar theme you see is you do something because you really want to do it. The end outcome may not be really clear. And hence, when we think of starting a company because we are going to get rich, or, I'm going to take this company public for $1 billion, there is nothing wrong in dreaming, but that end outcome is not something that is clear or apparent. So when there is no guarantee of success, the reason to start a company has to really be because of the passion to do something that you are compelled and called upon, and you must pursue it and explore, and you're willing to take all the risks that it entails. And that sort of, I think, is a good takeaway from when we think about entrepreneurship. And how can we not talk about entrepreneurship without talking about, Elon Musk, right? So, when your vision is important and something that's beyond the imagination of most people, you will be told by most that it's impossible. But really, what is possible and what is impossible is what starts in your head, in your mind. So when something is important enough, you have to do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. And mostly in entrepreneurship, the odds are not in your favor. So, imagine saying a private space company will launch humans into orbit. Of course, people are going to say that's impossible. So don't let naysayers dissuade you if you truly believe in it. I think that's the most important thing.